Good morning, and thank you for joining me. This is Jerry. I am the owner and creator behind Heart and Hand Creations. I am working on a scrapbook folio, and I'm going to be making some pages that have interactive elements. And I thought I would go through the process and show you how to make some of these interactive elements for your pages in case you want to include them on a scrapbook that you're working on. But first, there are some pretty general tools that you'll need besides your paper embellishments, keepsakes, and photos. So I'm going to go through and show you some of the tools that I have readily available within arm's reach when I'm working on a new project. You see in the center of the table, I have scissors. I have quite a few, and these are only for paper. I do sew, and so I have scissors special for using on fabric. I do not interchange those. I have more scissors for my paper collection because each one of these is used for a specific purpose for me. I have a couple of pair here that are used for just general use. They're pretty standard size scissors. I have a medium size that I use and will be using those in most of the projects that I'm going to be showing you. And these are pretty sharp. I'm going to be using this medium pair. I also have smaller scissors that I use for fussy cutting. And that's fussy cutting is when you're cutting an image out of a paper, if it's not a sticker or a die cut embellishment and you need to cut around something, maybe a floral design and you're cutting it out of paper. I use the fussy cutting because that gives you a little bit more control over how you can turn the paper as you're cutting. And then I also use a finger blade, and this is for making straight cuts. Now, I do most often use a paper trimmer that has the sliding blade, but sometimes when I'm making the cover of a folio or album, I will use this to make some of my big cuts when the paper maybe is 24 inches instead of 12 inches. It won't fit in my paper trimmer. So I will use this with a ruler, and this just fits on your finger. It's like an X-Acto knife, and you can see the blade on the end. It's pretty sharp, and you can change the blade out as it becomes dull. And then you just follow along your ruler's edge and make your straight cuts. So to begin with, you need a good pair of scissors that you can use for cutting paper. So I'm going to move the scissors out of the way that I'm not going to be using in today's project. So as I said, I am going to use these medium-sized scissors. Another thing you're going to need to use is some way to crease your paper down so that it lays flat. And you'll see me do this often. You can use a bone folder, which I have a couple here that I use. And brand doesn't matter. But what I usually use, I use these a good bit, but I like a paddle. So these are a little bit flexible. They won't tear into the paper. It's not real sharp on the edge. It does have a good flat edge for creasing paper. So I use these, and this is what I'm going to be using today. So I'll set one of these aside. But I also like a brayer, and you can see mine is getting pretty banged up, and I probably need to get some Goo Gone to get some of this probably glue remnants off. But this helps if you have a big sheet of paper that you're creasing, but I won't be using this one when I'm showing you the interactive elements we're going to be making. So I'll set these aside. When I'm using glue and wet adhesives, I always have some sort of paper towel or microfiber cloth so that I can wipe away any glue that may seep out of the element as we're gluing it down. especially when you're using a paddle or bone folder, something to spread and smooth that glue out. So I always have this available, a paper towel and a pencil. And this is just something, I probably got this from the Dollar Tree. I mean, I get packs of them because I use them and sharpen them so often. So I'll just set this back here because this is going to be something I want to have close at hand. Now, when we are talking about adhesives, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I always say that you need to use a glue and tape that is acid-free and photo safe so that it doesn't interfere with the inks and prints of those and age those photos, and journaling, because it can fade your ink from writing also. But you want to make sure you check the label whenever you're buying an adhesive that you're going to use in your scrapbook. 99% of the time, I use Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. They have different nozzles that you can use to spread your glue onto the paper. And I have a straight pen that is stainless steel so that it doesn't rust in my glue. And this keeps that nozzle clear when it's not in use. And you get one of these if you buy Barely Art Precision Craft Glue from their website or from scrapbooking.com, or a lot of the scrapbooking stores have this. They usually supply you with a straight pen to put into your glue nozzle to keep that from drying out and causing it to gunk up. Okay, so I'll have this, and you'll see that it says here, non-toxic, dries clear, precision tip, and is PAT tested, acid-free, photo safe, archival. So I know this print is too small for you. You want to look at the label to make sure that there's some verbiage there that says that it's photo friendly, safe, acid free. So we'll have this close at hand. When I'm doing photo mats, which we're not going to be doing today, usually that is a white paper or maybe a cream ivory paper, something that's light, where photos are going to go down and it gives a little border around the photo. I use Connect glue. This is a Gina K Designs glue. And the reason I do this is a more thin and it has a lot of slip to it. And slip means that when it's still wet, you can move it around until you get your paper on straight. And that's real important. It gives you just a few seconds of wiggle room to literally wiggle that photo mat in place. When I am putting down paper and I use my paddle to press it on to each other to adhere it, then this spreads out really well and you can't see the trail of glue behind the paper. Sometimes some glues will dry really quickly and it doesn't spread out and you can see those glue marks through the paper. This one, to me, helps rectify that issue. We're not going to be doing photo mats, so I'm going to set this aside. I'll put this here, but I am going to be using my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. You also need some double-sided tape and ways to put your elements, keepsakes, and photos and things like that into your scrapbook, and you may want to do that with double-sided tape instead of wet glue or photo corners. Now these photo corners, let's see if I can get this so you can read it. These came from Hobby Lobby, but most any of the box stores have this. But you can see here it says self-adhesive, acid-free, and archival safe. So even when you're putting these down onto your photos using the photo corners, you need to make sure it has that verbiage on the label as well. But I won't be using those because I'm not going to be putting photos in this video. But I will be using double-sided tape, and you can see I have different widths. This is from Scrapbook.com. This is a 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch double-sided tape, and it comes from Scrapbook.com. I don't think you're going to be able to pick up on that. There we go, a little bit. Oh, I got it upside down. But Scrapbook.com has a tape, and it's a real good quality product. Will keep things down on your page for a number of years. But I also get what's called score tape, SCOR tape, and the brand always has I guess this is an Asian word, and it's called Sukwang. I get this from Amazon or any of the big box stores, and all these are also acid-free, photo safe. And you can see this is about a 2-inch width. I most often am using a 1/2-inch width, but I also have a 1/4-inch width. So I make scrapbooks for sale in my Etsy shop. So of course I have different widths, but I recommend that you get one that may be a 1/2-inch because I think this one is the most useful and is used most often. Okay, so with that, what you need is your paper, some scissors, some way to press your paper down. And I have seen people use credit cards or gift cards, and that's fine. That works perfectly well. Just make sure that when you're pressing it down, it doesn't bear down into the paper and cause creasing in places that you don't want it to. I'll have my glue and my paper towel and pencil. And so that is really what you need for your supplies, your tools, to make any of the interactive elements that go into your scrapbook and to adhere photographs. Oh, and I need the tape. I always have that close at hand. So pretty basic tools. Just make sure they're photo friendly.